Love, real love, is not what we've often been told. It's not just about chemistry or the butterflies stirred up by dopamine and desire. It's not found in the fleeting warmth of attention or the shallow satisfaction of mutual attraction. No, love, true, sacred love, is much deeper, more demanding, and far more freeing. It doesn't just happen. It asks something from you. It calls you to grow. It confronts you with truth, with responsibility, with the intimidating reality of being fully seen. Not as who you pretend to be, but as who you really are. And if you're not ready for that, you might mistake real love for discomfort and settle for the illusion of compatibility instead of embracing the challenge of deep connection. The right person for you isn't the one who slips into your life with no friction. The right person shakes things up in the most important ways. They challenge your excuses. They stare into the face of your insecurities. They don't just accept who you are, they see who you're capable of becoming, and they hold you accountable to that higher self. That's a divine connection. Because anything that pushes you to grow while standing by you with unshaken support, that's not common, that is sacred. We've been trained to look for comfort, to search for someone who makes things easy, someone who won't press too hard on our pain or disturb our fragile peace. But the right person does the opposite, not to hurt you, but because they see past your present. They want you to bloom. And blooming isn't passive. It's fiery. It's standing in front of someone and saying, I'll break my patterns if it means we can build something better together. But how do you know if the person you're with is the one? How do you tell the difference between someone who temporarily soothes your wounds and someone who reshapes your world? The signs are there, divine signals that show themselves not just through words or feelings, but through consistent behavior, through how your inner world responds, and through the changes that happen in your life when they're around. These signs aren't about perfection. They're about alignment. They show up in how you grow with this person, in whether your bond is just romantic escape or a true spiritual partnership. So, what are these signs? What truths begin to shine when you're no longer chasing the dream of being loved, but waking up to the reality of building something deep, honest, and transformative? Most of us think love should feel like peace. We think the right person will show up like a calming breeze, quieting every storm inside us. But that's not how truth behaves. And if love is to be real, it must be rooted in truth. The right person won't make the chaos vanish. They'll help you face it. They won't shield you from life's trials. They'll face them beside you. And in that kind of bond, you find something sturdier than ease. You find grounding in the middle of mess. You find stability not because life becomes easy, but because their presence becomes your anchor amid the noise. Remember this: life by its very nature includes suffering, pain, loss, uncertainty, betrayal. No relationship escapes these truths. Expecting love to spare you from them will only leave you disappointed. But here's the difference with the right person: they won't rescue you from life. They'll stand strong with you in it. You're still exposed to the chaos, but you no longer face it alone. Their presence doesn't remove the fire, but it helps you hold the hose. It doesn't fix everything, but it calms your panic. Your nervous system settles. Your thinking clears. You breathe deeper, not because it's easy, but because someone is holding steady beside you. The right person won't solve all your problems. That's your job. They'll stay with you while you work through them, especially when it's hard. That's when their presence means the most, when everything is falling apart, your plans, your confidence, your belief in yourself. And they're still there, not enabling your breakdown, not falling apart with you. but holding steady like a lighthouse. Showing you the way back without judgment. That's not just romance, that's sacred support. Because when times get hard, many people walk away. The wrong ones vanish when your chaos becomes too much. But the right one, they walk straight into your storm. And that kind of love transforms you. You begin to respond differently. You don't spiral the same. You feel safe to break down without shame and strong enough to rebuild without fear. That's what real love does. It gives you a foundation. Not because life stops being hard, but because now you know you can withstand it. Their presence becomes healing. Not because you're dependent, but because you're deeply connected. True love doesn't make you weaker. It strengthens your spine. You don't lean on them to carry all the weight. Their faith in you reminds you of your own strength. When you're with the wrong person, even small challenges feel overwhelming. Everything is dramatic. You're always cautious, always trying to keep the peace. But when you're with the right person, even big challenges feel manageable. That's how you know. Not because the problems disappear, but because you finally feel like you have a teammate, not an enemy. You stop fighting for control, you start fighting for unity. Conflict isn't about winning anymore, it's about repair. That shift changes everything. You stop preparing for betrayal. You begin to trust that even when you disagree, respect will still be there. And that's another thing. The right person protects emotional safety. They don't use your vulnerability against you. They don't throw your past wounds at you when they're upset. They control their reactions, not to fake perfection, but to guard the bond you've built. That kind of emotional discipline, that choice to protect love, even in anger, that's rare. That's what sets mature love apart from reactive love. This makes sense. And they're both alarming and dangerous. Not just like a little bit awkward side notion. When you're with the right person, their steady behavior allows you to be real. You don't need to perform. You don't need to constantly shrink or adjust to be liked. You can just be flawed, growing, human. And instead of that scaring them away, it draws them closer, not because they don't see your flaws, but because they've chosen you, fully aware of them. That kind of clarity, it changes you from the inside out. You begin to feel safe just being yourself. You start speaking your truth without fear. You heal not because they're fixing you, but because they've given you the space and the safety to do the healing yourself. It's not always flashy. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's routine. But that's where the miracle lives, in the ordinary. In the daily rhythm. In the simple moments made sacred through presence. The right person brings that stillness into your life. You could be doing absolutely nothing, washing dishes, driving, sitting in silence, and something in you just knows, I'm safe here. That's not just chemistry, that's alignment. That's divine security, right? And this kind of love, it doesn't just fall into your lap. It's built with someone who chooses to co-create it. Someone who doesn't leave when things get messy. Someone who understands that real connection takes effort, patience, and emotional maturity. When you find that person, when you're blessed enough to build something meaningful with them, your life won't suddenly become perfect, but it will gain something greater. A steady place to land, a hand to hold in the dark, a sacred reminder that no matter the storm, you're no longer facing it alone. The kind of day that reminds you, no matter what life throws at you, you're not standing alone. That's the first divine sign. They never promise to erase your pain, but they do promise to stay while you heal through it. And they keep that promise, not just once, but again and again, until you begin to trust that maybe, just maybe, this kind of love was truly worth the wait. Love isn't supposed to be a hiding place. It's not meant to shield you from growth or wrap you up in comfort that stops you from facing your potential. Yet, so many people fall into that pattern. They mistake ease for compatibility. They confuse peace with stillness. But real love, the kind that comes from the right person, won't let you stay stuck. It won't whisper soft lies to make you feel better in dysfunction. It tells the truth, sometimes a hard truth. And that truth stirs something in you. It shakes you. It urges you to evolve. The right person won't settle for your comfort zone. They'll lead you out of it gently, patiently, but with powerful care that only someone who really believes in you can give. You know you're with the right person when their presence doesn't just make you feel good, it makes you feel called. Called to rise, to get better, to sharpen your focus, to notice your words, your habits, your choices. Suddenly, your laziness doesn't feel innocent. Your excuses start to feel heavy. Not because they're criticizing you, but because their presence reminds you of a standard you've been ignoring. That standard lives within you. It's your deeper self, your conscience. But over time, you buried it under excuses and noise. The right person brings it back to the surface. They revive it. They revive you. And it's not because they try to control you or constantly correct you. That's not growth. It's pressure. This is something more sacred. They reflect your potential without force, but with love, with presence, with a mirror that quietly asks, is this who you really want to be? They're not loud about it, but something about them shifts your life. You feel the weight of their belief in you, and it makes you want to rise. That's sacred, because now you're not just living for you, you're showing up because someone sees who you truly are and treats that version as real. The wrong person will let you fall apart. They'll sit with you while you give up on yourself. They'll support the habits that quietly drain your potential because that's easier than facing your evolution. But the right one, they can't watch you fade. They'll speak up, they'll recognize when you're drifting, and they won't ignore it just to avoid discomfort. That tension might annoy you. It might even push you away for a moment. But later, you'll realize that was the start of your breakthrough. They weren't trying to change you. They were trying to help you stop betraying your own soul. That's what real love does. It doesn't want you to stay the same. It wants you to become the version of you that's been waiting to come alive. And there's nothing stronger than being loved by someone who sees you clearly, not as a fantasy, but also not as a failure. They see the darkness and still believe in your ability to rise. They don't cover your flaws with pity. They don't tear you down with judgment. They walk next to you, steady, loving as you face the hard parts of yourself. That's not judgment, that's partnership. You'll find that your thinking shifts. You notice the corners where you've made excuses. You start wanting to clean things up, not because they told you to, but because something in you wants to match the level of character they live by. That's influence. It's not forced, it's felt. You start changing, not from fear, but from motivation. You begin showing up earlier, listening deeper, following through on your promises, because being around them brings your own values into clear view. That's no accident. That's love doing its quiet, sacred work. And this is where many people start to pull back, because this love isn't just comforting, it's demanding. It asks you to let go of who you've been. It challenges the identity you've grown used to. And if you've been clinging to comfort, you'll want to run. You'll say, it's too serious, or it's too complicated. But the truth is, you're just scared. Scared that becoming your true self means losing the old version of you. And you're right, it does. That's the whole point. But here's the grace. The right person won't rush you. They'll walk beside you with patience. They won't enable you, but they also won't humiliate you for not being perfect. They understand growth isn't a show, it's a process. They give you room to unfold at your own pace, but they never stop gently holding up that mirror. And that mirror doesn't lie. It won't flatter you, but it also won't condemn you. It just says, there's more in you, I see it, do you. That kind of love is rare. It's not shiny. It's not full of fireworks. Sometimes it's just a quiet nudge, a steady hand, a deep talk that stays with you for days because it showed you something about yourself that you didn't want to see. And still, you're thankful because for the first time, you're not being spoiled. You're being recognized. You're being invited. You're being loved, not just for who you are, but for who you're becoming. That's when love stops being an escape from growth and becomes the ground where growth happens. You're no longer in a relationship of comfort. You're in a relationship that transforms. And if that person is willing to grow too, not just asking for change, but living it, then what you've found is something sacred. That's not a distraction. That's divine. And there are remnants in life when someone enters your world and everything slows down, not because the world changed, but because something in you recognized something in them. You can't explain it, and you don't need to. It's not logic that confirms it. It's something deeper, something older than understanding. It's not about shared interests or perfect timing. It's about connection. Your soul sees something familiar in theirs. And in that moment, something shifts. There's a quiet knowing, a deep peace that doesn't shout, but settles you. This isn't about instant sparks. Sparks fade. They can be confused with attraction or fantasy, but this is more. This is about recognition. And recognition is never loud. It's calm. It's the stillness that lives in the center of a storm, not because chaos disappeared, but because you found something steady inside it. The right person brings that, not through perfection, but through truth. You don't feel the need to impress them. You just unfold. You're not performing, you're just present. And being seen like that, it's scary, especially if you've spent your life hiding. Most people wear masks, they shape themselves to be liked. But when the right person comes, that mask falls. Not because you take it off, but because it just doesn't fit anymore. They don't just see the version of you that you show the world, they see deeper. And instead of turning away, they lean in. That kind of acceptance changes you. With the wrong people, even when you try to be real, you feel like you have to defend your truth. You watch every word, but with the right person, the words just come out, unfiltered, true. And they land softly, not because they always agree, but because they hold space for your truth. That creates something new between you, a kind of language that doesn't need to be taught, it's felt. There's a kind of presence that feels like quiet understanding, a kind of connection built on mutual respect. That's why being with the right person feels like coming home to a place you didn't even know you were looking for. It's not loud, it's not chaotic, it's just real. It grounds you. It gently removes the armor you didn't even realize you were still wearing. And you find yourself breathing differently, softer, deeper, like a part of you finally feels safe to rest. Not because life has suddenly become easy, but because someone arrived who makes the weight of it all feel lighter. But here's what most people missed. that soul level connection, it's not just about comfort, it's also about responsibility. When your soul recognizes someone, it doesn't just mean you feel safe, it means you feel seen. And being seen comes with a cost. Because now you're not just responsible for yourself, you're responsible to the connection. You can't lie to yourself anymore without it affecting someone else. You can't keep shrinking and calling it harmless. Yeah, this kind of bond calls for truth. It demands that you stop pretending. It brings you face to face with your deeper self. And in that space, you have two choices: rise or run. A lot of people run, not because the person is wrong, but because the connection reveals too much. It shows them what's unfinished, what's unhealed, what's still hiding in the shadows. But if you stay long enough to let that recognition work on you, it will begin to change everything. You'll start letting go of layers that were never really you. You'll begin saying things that feel bold but honest. You'll start acting in ways that reflect your true self, and the other person will do the same. But because you're forcing it, not because of fear, but because the connection itself won't allow anything less. That's why the right person doesn't always feel easy. They won't always make you feel comfortable, but they will make you feel aligned. And alignment doesn't mean everything is smooth. It means that even in hard moments, you know you're growing. You know the stretching you feel is part of your becoming. You understand, the tension is the death of the old you and something new is being born. It's sacred to find someone who sees you and doesn't need to change you. That kind of connection is rare because most people aren't seeking recognition, they're seeking distraction. But if you've done the inner work, if you've stopped running from yourself, then when that person appears, you won't want to escape. You'll lean in, you'll listen closer. You'll pay attention to the silence between the words, because that silence carries a truth too deep for language. And in those moments, those unspoken, almost holy moments, you realize something powerful. You're no longer alone. You're not just with someone. You're connected to something bigger than both of you. This isn't only about romance. It's about purpose. It's about two souls moving in the same direction, not perfectly, not without struggle, but with a shared sense of destiny. And that's what recognition gives. It gives direction, it brings clarity, it gives a quiet kind of peace that says, this is it. This is real. Don't look away. When that happens, you don't have to ask if it's love. You don't need to overthink it. The knowing lives inside you. It's not anxious, it's not rushed, it's calm, steady. Alive, you feel it in your chest, in your body, in your... Okay? And it doesn't leave, and not even when things get tough, not even when fear shows up. That's how you know it's divine. It doesn't demand attention. It simply is. In a world full of noise, that kind of quiet knowing is one of the rarest sounds you'll ever hear. Real love doesn't just show up when it's convenient. It stays when life gets messy. It keeps showing up when you're tired, when you're stressed, when things are unclear. The right person won't disappear when things go wrong. They don't just offer love when it's easy. Their presence feels intentional, not conditional. They don't love you only when you meet their expectations. They choose you again and again because they want to, not because they have to. That choice builds something deeper than feelings. It builds trust. And trust is the soil where real love grows. servants. You can feel the difference. You can feel it when someone stays out of duty versus someone staying out of desire. One feels heavy, like a task. The other feels light. Even when it's serious, because it comes from freedom, the right person won't just say they care. They'll show it. They'll remember the small things. They'll make space for your emotions. They won't treat your presence like it's replaceable. They won't value you because you're perfect. They'll value you because you're theirs. Because you're someone they choose fully and completely. This kind of love doesn't need constant excitement. It doesn't live in dramatic gestures. It lives in quiet consistency. It lives in the days when life feels boring or hard, in the moments when you're not at your best, when you're moody, messy, distant, and still they stay. Not because they don't see your flaws, but because they do and love you anyway. They don't try to fix you. They don't shrink away from your pain. They don't weaponize your weakness. They lean in, not to save you, but to walk with you. That's what separates real love from everything else. It's the choice. The choice to stay. The choice to understand, even when it's easier not to. The choice to work through problems instead of ignoring them. And, most importantly, the choice to love you without turning that love into leverage. There's no scoreboard, no threat of leaving every time things get difficult. That's what emotional maturity looks like. That's someone who values the relationship more than their pride. The wrong people will make you feel like love has to be earned, like you're always one mistake away from being pushed out. You'll find yourself explaining too much, apologizing too often, walking on eggshells. Cheeky eye. That's not love. That's insecurity dressed as romance. When someone is truly right for you, their love feels safe, even when life doesn't. You won't have to perform. You can be your full self, complex, changing human, and still deeply chosen. And here's the irony. The more someone chooses you with consistency, the less you feel like you have to chase them. There's no panic, no fear of losing them for being too much or not enough. Their presence becomes steady ground beneath your feet. That doesn't mean they're perfect. It means they take responsibility when they fall short. They repair instead of disappearing. They move toward you, not away. That's mature love. Love that chooses, not once, but daily. And you won't know the right person by how strong their feelings are in the beginning. You'll know them by how deeply they stay when things get hard. There are many people who shine bright for a moment and vanish when things get uncomfortable. But someone truly meant for you will face discomfort for the sake of the bond. They'll have the hard talks. They'll face their own pride. They'll grow with you, not apart from you. That's love with roots. Not a feeling, but a decision over and over again. Even when it's inconvenient, especially when it is. Real love doesn't sweep you off your feet. It helps you plant them firmly. It doesn't make you lose yourself. It helps you find yourself more clearly. It shows up not in fireworks, but in morning coffee, in late night talks, in honest apologies, in the way they look at you, even when you're tired or upset. It shows up in the silence, in the struggle, in the quiet understanding. That kind of love builds an unshakable foundation. Because when two people keep choosing each other, especially in difficult seasons, they become more than partners, they become allies, and that bond won't break when emotions shift. Because it's not based on fleeting highs, it's built on values, on choices, on showing up again and again. You'll know it's the right relationship, not because it always feels good, but because when it doesn't, you both fight for it. You repair. You adjust. You recommit. You make space for mistakes. Not to ignore them, but to move forward with grace. That's what makes love last. Not the perfect moments, but the choice to keep choosing each other through the imperfect ones. Okay, so when love becomes a decision and not just a feeling, let's look. Okay, so I'll do with you. I just want this in a chill. No, you don't just feel loved. You are loved actively, intentionally, daily. And that kind of love doesn't just change your relationship. It changes you. You become more secure, more present, more alive. Not because someone saved you, but because someone saw you and kept choosing you. Again and again, even when it was hard, especially, that's the truest sign. Love that lasts is love that chooses.